Hello everyone, and welcome back to Steins Gate 0. I'm G, and we've been bouncing narrators for a little bit here, and now we are on to Maho's perspective. Maho Hiyajo was fidgeting. She knew exactly why, but she still didn't want to admit it. Maho, are you ready?
Oh yeah.
She awkwardly stood up from the chair as Dr. Leskinen spoke to her.
What?
I had thought you'd put some more effort into it, but I guess not. Dr. Leskinen stared at her for a moment and then spoke. It was obvious he was referring to her outfit.
I'm not going to a party like I was last time.
You wore your lab coat to that too.
That was because I forgot my clothes.
That's right. It sounded like that was a very evil laugh, sorry. Dr. Leskinen was wearing his translator all the time these days. In fact, he had actually told Maho to talk to him in Japanese. Now then, I can't wait to see what kind of relationship Lintalo and Kurisu have established. Maho and Dr. Leskinen were about to head into Tokyo proper. There they were to meet Rintaro Okabe. It had been 2 weeks since they'd first asked him to test Amadeus. It was time for the first report. Of course, that was the reason Maho was fidgeting. She was nervous to meet Okabe. No, to see Kurisu for the first time in quite a while. Of course, Maho was able to talk to Kurisu anytime she wanted, but since she'd asked Okabe to be a tester, she tried to avoid doing so as much as possible. She didn't want her conversations to add any extra noise.
Professor, before we leave, can I ask something?
Whatever you like.
Why Okabe?
Maho had wanted to ask Dr. Leskinen that for a long time. If she was going to ask it, though, now was the time. Dr. Leskinen thought for a minute. Are you jealous, Maho?
I'm...
She felt heat flush her face. In other words, he was right. Yeah, she was jealous of Okabe, not that she wanted to admit it.
To be honest, it bothers me. There are other people who could be her conversation partners.
You, for instance?
I'm not saying that. I'm too close to Kurisu and Amadeus.
Lintalo is a good guy.
If you really believe that, you're naive. It's impossible to really understand someone after only meeting them once. What if he secretly sells Amadeus to another lab? Even if he doesn't plan to at first, he might change his mind if they showed him enough money. That's human nature.
Let's say Lintalo did sell Amadeus. What would happen then? Would whoever get her access rights be able to become friends with Kurisu and take over Amadeus?
Well...
Maho asked herself the question, and then realized the chance was almost zero.
That would be impossible.
Yes, it's impossible. Because if that ever happened, Kurisu would refuse to talk to them. In that sense, Amadeus is a very difficult system. It doesn't do what you want it to. Of course, it is possible that Amadeus could be persuaded. But you could say that's why I chose you and Kurisu as its models. Dr. Leskinen gave her a mischievous wink.
Both Kurisu and I have difficult personalities. It would be hard to persuade us to do anything.
She knew he was teasing her, so she decided to say it. Indeed, you two are truly merciless. And that is the best security I could get.
That sounds like an insult.
You two are the finest ladies our institution has to offer. Dr. Leskinen laughed happily. He always had a childlike innocence about him. Either way, the Amadeus AI is a tricky thing. You could say that's what makes it interesting. Keeping them to ourselves won't bring us any progress, will it? I'd been thinking about how I wanted to find a catalyst that could prompt Amadeus to really evolve. And I wanted it to be someone who didn't have anything to do with the research. Lintalo is smart, and I think he's a good choice. He's also a friend of Kurisu's. Anyway, why not see what he says today before you decide? First, let's see how Kurisu has changed since she started spending time with Lintalo. We may see a side of her that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
That was what was making her nervous. If Kurisu changed into someone she didn't know, that would make her sad. It's time. Let's go. Maho nodded. I walked onto the grounds of Yanabayashi Shrine and quietly took a look around. Several cats were sunbathing beneath the cold winter sky, but there was no sign of anyone else. Rukako wasn't back from school yet. Okay, I could talk to Kurisu without anyone staring at me here. I was supposed to meet with Dr. Leskinen and Maho after this. Before that happened, I wanted to confirm something with Kurisu. I decided to start the app. Whenever I talked to Kurisu, I needed to pay attention to where I was. People would stare if I did it in a crowded place. And I couldn't do it around my family or anyone I knew. In that sense, with the exception of the fact that Rukako and Mayuri might show up, Yanabayashi Shrine wasn't a bad spot.
Hello.
We need to talk.
You're meeting with the professor and Maho after this, right? Is that what this is about?
Yeah.
Is there any reason to be nervous? Basically, you're turning over the logs and then they'll ask you some quick questions about your impression of me.
That's it. The logs. That's what I wanted to talk about. Have all of our conversations been recorded?
I told you that when we started, right? I keep logs in a place where nobody but me can access them. Were you not listening?
And you're going to submit them to the professor in Hyajo?
Probably.
Which means if I say anything personal to you, Dr. Leskinen and Maho will hear it?
You're just realizing this now?
Yeah, I was a little late. Kurisu and I had been talking for 2 weeks. I should have asked about this when I got the access key for Amadeus. I just realized today. Hey, have I told you anything I shouldn't have so far?
Like the fact that you were barely able to talk to any girls at the matchmaking party? Or the fact that your family sells vegetables but you hate eggplants?
I don't hate eggplants, I'm just not very good at eating them. That was all, I didn't really care.
Or the fact that the first time we talked you called me Christina?
Ugh. Please forget about that.
Human memories are ambiguous, and as time passes they become more subjective and tend to become compressed into a single narrative. Regardless of whether the memory is a good or a bad one, it's common to only be able to remember words that left an impression, and that impression will often alter your memories of the surrounding conversation.
Huh? What was she talking about?
I'm not saying that's a bad thing, that's just how human memories work. But Amadeus isn't a human, it's an incomplete AI, still in the research stage. It is a big problem for Maho and the professor, but actually Amadeus still can't perfectly replicate the ambiguity of human memories. In other words, it can't completely replicate the high-level brain function that is forgetting.
Huh? At the ATF seminar, Dr. Leskinen said that Amadeus would forget unneeded information.
Yes, I do forget things. I remember what I said. I record things in a log like it's my secret diary. So in the end, all the information is still kept there, and if I load that, all the data I should have forgotten will come flooding back to me. Okay?
In other words, asking her to forget was a waste of time.
Another plan would be to delete my logs, but those are my backups, so that's not happening. Even if I could delete one area, the result would be the same. I would analyze the surrounding conversation and automatically reconstruct the missing portion. If you want to alter my memories, you'd have to mess with the primary program.
I didn't have that level of access, and I didn't understand how the program worked at all. So basically, until I told Kurisu why I called her Christina, she was going to keep asking. What a pain.
So, why Christina?
You really don't give up, do you? I'll hang up right now if I have to.
Even if you run, as I've just explained, I won't forget. The more you try to change the subject, the more interested I get, you know? Or is this a ploy to get me to pay attention to you?
You're the one who wants attention. You called me in the middle of my university lectures. And not only that, you message me all the time on Rhine.
Ah.
You got too much curiosity. If you keep poking your head into things, one of these days you're going to regret it.
A scientist can't function if they're not curious.
You got mad at me. If you're that interested in why I call you Christina, why not come up with a theory yourself?
I have a few, actually. Listen to these.
She's really into this.
Theory 1. You've got a crush on a Hollywood actress named Christina.
You think you've got the looks of a Hollywood actress?
Looks don't matter. It's like how you feel a closeness to someone with the same name.
So this is what you're saying, in other words. Rintaro Okabe feels close to me.
It's just an example. Don't try to read too deep into it.
It's a joke. Whenever I talk to Kurisu, I always wanted to tease her. I needed to watch out.
Theory number 2. You once dated a foreign girl named Christina. Given your terrible English ability, this one is out of the question, huh?
It's possible that I dated a blonde babe who also spoke fluent Japanese, isn't it?
Did you? Silence is an admission of defeat.
Sorry.
Theory number 3. You knew the original me and called her that either directly or indirectly. It is also unlikely. If you called me that, I'd know what to say. Know what I'd say. Stop adding Tina.
Yeah, that was exactly right. That's exactly what Kurisu said.
I didn't stop because
I was embarrassed. A genius named Kurisu Makise was the person I always wanted to be.
What do you mean?
Couldn't bring myself to say her name, so I came up with a nickname to hide my embarrassment.
Embarrassment?
Yeah, not just with the original either. It happens when I'm talking to you too.
Me?
I mean, I've never talked to a girl inside a monitor before.
What? Well, thank you.
Are you blushing?
I am not. I just didn't expect that you treat me like a girl. It surprised me a little.
Even that reaction was just like Kurisu. That part of you, I shuddered. What was I about to say? This was a 3D model on a screen, a tiny collection of O's, zeros, and ones in the shape of a human. What was I about to say to her?
Hey, can I ask you something? We knew each other, didn't we? I mean, you and the original me. If you don't want to tell me, that's fine, but what was our relationship? I'm kind of curious. Did I not get mad when you called me Christina? Or did I get mad but then laugh and forgive you? I don't want to die.
I was hit with a violent urge to throw up. I could see Kurisu in front of me, covered in blood. He was looking at me, her eyes cold.
You killed me. What's wrong? Hey, you've gone pale.
I touched the smartphone and ended the call. Then I became too dizzy to stand. I tried to throw up, but nothing came out. My hands were shaking. That's right. Can't change reality. But there I was, trying to talk to Kurisu like nothing had happened. I was treating her like the real Kurisu and trying to avert my eyes from what I'd done. I was just clinging to Kurisu. This was wrong. I shouldn't talk to Kurisu anymore. The call was from Kurisu. What is it?
You know exactly what it is. It's rude to just hang up. Is something wrong?
Nothing.
Why you look so pale?
It's nothing, really. Leave me alone. It'd help a lot if you wouldn't talk to me for a while.
Don't push yourself too hard. Contact somebody you know, okay? Bye.
Kurisu gave up easier than I expected. Maybe she realized that as an artificial intelligence, there was nothing she could do. Realized? I was making her sound like a real person. And the second that thought crossed my mind, I almost saw an image of a bloody hand. I gritted my teeth and waited for it to pass. I should really turn my smartphone off until I calmed down a little. I was fine just a moment ago, but now even hearing Kurisu's voice was enough to send me into a panic. I'd gone back to how I was half a year ago. Back then, even hearing Kurisu's name was enough to make me dizzy. I shouldn't have messed with this. Shouldn't have tried to chase Kurisu's shadow. For now, I should just turn off the smartphone. But in the end, I couldn't make that decision. I gulped down an entire bottle of mineral water and caught my breath. There was still a little time before my meeting. I wanted to get some air up here and recover a little. I looked down over the scenery below the overpass. The city was in the Christmas spirit. The atmosphere was charged with excitement. It was the exact opposite of me. I took more deep breaths. I still felt like I wanted to throw up. I was getting a headache too. If I went to Dr. Leskinen like this, I'm sure I'd worry him. And then I realized that the two girls coming up the stairs were looking at me. I peered into the late afternoon darkness to try and make out their faces. One of them, the girl with the short haircut, waved.
I knew it. It's Ocarine. Hi there.
Oh, you're Mayuri's friends. They're Mayuri's friends and fellow cosplayers. I think their cosplay names were Kaede and Fubuki. I didn't know their real names. Which was Kaede and which was Fubuki again?
Are you okay? You don't look so good.
I'm fine. If I made them worry here and they talked to Mayuri, it would cause a big fuss. I didn't want her to worry about me when she didn't have to. I shouldn't have come back to Akihabara anyway. I'd run into people I knew just walking through town. Should have gone towards Kondo when I left the shrine.
You always look like you're hurting somehow, Ocarine.
Do I?
You do. Fubuki. And when Mayushi looks at you, she looks like she's in pain too. And when I see her looking at you, I feel like I'm going to cry. Wait, what am I saying?
This Fubuki girl must really care about Mayuri. Felt a little better after hearing that.
Who's the girl you like?
Girl I like? An image of Kurisu appeared in the corner of my eye again. The feeling in my hands when I took her life came back. No. Calm down.
Ocarine? I'm sorry. That was rude to ask. Ocarine? Are you really okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Kaede and Fubuki were looking at me, worried. I got away from them as fast as I could. X-Day Protocol. On to the next chapter we go. I want to stop being a tester. When I started the conversation with that, both Dr. Leskinen and Maho looked shocked. We were meeting in a room at a luxury hotel in the heart of Tokyo. It felt like the sort of secret meeting you'd see in a spy movie. Or maybe it only felt that way because the old me wasn't completely gone.
You can't just... It's irresponsible.
Maho seemed to finally understand what I meant, and her anger was clear. Maho, calm down. Lintalo is the one helping us with this test. I'm grateful that you took up the offer at all. If you quit here, you're not being irresponsible at all. Don't worry. Dr. Leskinen smiled and offered me his hand. I took hold of his giant hand and shook it back, but I looked down, unable to look him in the eye. I'm sorry. Still, I would have liked it if you could have continued. I took a quick look at the logs and I see you've been talking to her quite a bit. And the way Kurisu speaks to you is very different than what we hear at the laboratory. Humans are, by nature, social animals. They change their words and actions depending on the situation and who they're speaking with. We can assume that Amadeus is doing the same thing. That's why I wanted you to continue the test a little while longer. By the way, why did you decide to quit? Did talking to Amadeus become painful? No, it's the opposite. The opposite? Talking to Amadeus, to Kurisu, is a lot of fun. But that scares me. And then I desperately tried to explain the feelings that were welling up within me, even though I still didn't understand them myself. I told them how scared I was that I was starting to see Kurisu and Kurisu as the same person. I thought this might put a lot of stress on you. I'm really sorry. But that reaction of yours is very interesting. In the sense that you're interacting with Amadeus from the perspective of someone who isn't a scientist. It's very valuable to me. I hope you'll forgive me for saying that. I'm a scientist to the core, you see. No, I understand that I'm the one being selfish here. Maho hadn't said a word for a while. She was frowning, and she seemed to be intently focused on studying Amadeus's logs. I didn't want her looking at me, because it made me feel guilty, but... Alright, if you want to stop being a tester, that's what will happen. But, do you mind if we leave the access program on your phone? Huh? From now on, it's up to you whether you want to talk to Amadeus or not. I'll tell Kurisu not to contact you. I don't want our relationship with you to end today. You're the first friend we've made in Japan, and also... Maho would be sad.
Professor?
I understand. I felt like giving in, but at the same time I didn't want to lose my relationship with Dr. Leskinen. My goal of going to Victor University hadn't changed at all. And then Dr. Leskinen got a call on his smartphone. Oh, excuse me, I have to take this. Maho, make up with Lintelo while I'm gone, okay? Dr. Leskinen left the room with a mischievous wink. I was alone with Maho.
I'm sorry for yelling.
No.
The professor's right. We're the ones asking you a favor. Amadeus is like a sister to me. No, more like a child. And I felt like you were throwing her away, so...
I'm sorry I can't help you.
I think I understand how you feel. Or at least, I thought I did, maybe.
Maho sighed again.
I'm no good, am I? My prefrontal cortex probably came out all screwed up when I was born. That has to be it.
Huh?
Prefrontal cortex is one of the parts of the brain that defines your personality. It also handles information filtering. When there's something you don't want to admit, it cuts out that information or deceives you as to its meaning.
I don't really understand.
In other words, it tries to hide your emotions and it tells lies, not to other people, but to yourself. Like how I'm trying to hide how I feel behind a wall of scientific jargon right now. I think it's my prefrontal cortex that's doing it.
That would apply just as well to the old me, Yoma Halloween. When I realized that, there was nothing I could say. I think that's true for everybody.
It's worse for me, probably. Just from now on, whenever you feel like it, talk to Amadeus. It doesn't have to be for long.
I'll think about it.
Thanks.
Maho flopped back onto the sofa. Hey, can I ask you a question? About Kurisu's mom. I happened to hear you and the professor talking about her at the party that one time. You said that something happened at Kurisu's house.
Oh, that.
Maho seemed to remember it quickly. She nodded.
We got a call from Kurisu's mom. Someone set her house on fire.
What? Was she okay?
She said she was gone that day, so she was alright.
That was a relief. After all that had happened, I really didn't want Kurisu's mother to have to go through any more.
Kurisu's mom seemed to really like me. She would invite me over on my off days all the time. I'm worried. I hope she's not caught up in anything weird.
Weird? I noticed the way she said the phrase. A cold chill ran down my back. It wasn't just an arson case?
Well...
Mao seemed unsure if she should tell me. Yajo, I urged her to speak. She nodded slightly.
Well, at first the local police investigated, but after that some people saying they were with the FBI came.
The FBI?
Yeah, understand, this wasn't a case the FBI would usually be involved in. And supposedly a neighbor saw the arson. And from what they said, it didn't look like your ordinary arsonists.
What do you mean?
There was more than one. She said they looked like some kind of special forces unit. They barely said a word, and once the fire started, they got right into the car and left. I don't know if this is the right word, but they looked really good at their job. They said the fire spread really fast.
Is she trying to say there was no ordinary arson, but the work of a professional? I couldn't laugh away the possibility. I knew for a fact that there were people like that in this world.
And
And?
the neighbor said they were speaking Russian.
Russian? Russian. The first thing that came to my mind, whether I liked it or not, was Nakabachi. Half a year ago, he'd stolen a paper about time travel from Kurisu, his own daughter, and used it to seek asylum in Russia. Did that have had something to do with it?
There's one more thing. Right after Kurisu's death, something weird happened at the lab. Someone who said they were a Japanese detective visited us with some of the local police. They said it was a joint US-Japan investigation into Kurisu's death. Of course, we helped as much as we could, but a few days later, the university asked the police. And they said that no such detective had come from Japan.
The Japanese detective was a fake?
That's not all. The local police said they'd never search our lab. In other words, not only was the detective a fake, but everyone who came and said they were with the police
Were also fakes?
After that, I
Shook a little and wrapped her arms around herself.
started to wonder if there was something else going on with Kurisu's death. I'm not really a conspiracy theorist, but I think that maybe Kurisu was killed for some other reason, and whatever that reason was, it's been covered up.
I was the one who killed Kurisu. The police never found out. They never would, probably. No one could prove a murder that had been committed by a time traveler. The police had announced that a foreign thief had snuck into the storeroom at the radio building and Kurisu had been killed because she saw him. Supposedly there was an international warrant out for the thief's arrest, because he'd already left the country. And when I killed Kurisu, there was one other person there, Dr. Nakabachi. It was eerie that his name hadn't come up at all. Russia, CERN, the time machine. I remembered the future that Suzuha, or perhaps I should say John Teeter, had spoken of. She'd said World War III was going to start within a decade, and it would be the time machine that set it off. The EU and Russia would be in a race to develop it, and then even America would intervene. That would be the spark. Were we at the center of a chain of events that would result in the deaths of 5 billion people? Couldn't help but feel that way.
Kurisu won't be able to rest in peace like this. I want to know the truth.
The truth? I couldn't stop myself from shaking as I looked at Maho's face. You want to know the truth? That was dangerous. If she tried to learn the truth, there could be no doubt that she'd put herself in danger. The rounders who came crashing through the veil of night. A childhood friend who died in my arms after being shot in the head. And after that, the nightmarish and seemingly endless time loops. All the horrors that I experienced in the Alpha World Line came flooding back, and I fought to stifle the moan. But that's something you should leave to the police.
You really think so?
If nothing else, you shouldn't think you can do something about it yourself. There's just so little that one person can do. After I said that, I regretted it, but it was too late. Maho's gaze had turned into a piercing glare.
You know something about what happened?
My panic was about to show. Quickly covered my face with my hands. That's impossible, right?
Yeah, sorry for being weird. Whenever Kursu gets involved, I just can't help myself. I really liked her.
She was a really good girl, an amazing one. I liked her too.
Yeah, I can tell by watching you.
A heavy silence filled the air between us. I felt like I had to say something, but fortunately, Dr. Leskinen came back just then. How about some dinner, you two? Maho and I nodded and stood up from the sofa.
Okabe, will you tell me more about what Kursu was like when she was here sometime?
Yeah, whenever you like. I was just barely able to smile back at Maho. I saw a dark blue van come around the corner of the underground parking lot. Its tires squealed a little. It wasn't a Japanese car, it was a station wagon that looked like a sports car from some foreign manufacturer. I didn't know a lot about cars, but supposedly if you purchased it from a dealer, it could easily go for over 8 million yen. The reason I knew all this was because the car's owner had told me over and over. The station wagon stopped in front of us, and there was a short bark from the horn. Associate Professor Izaki came out from the driver's side. While I was eating with Dr. Leskinen and Maho, he'd called me about something else. When I told him I was having dinner with the two of them, he'd offered to drive us home. Dr. Leskinen had tried to refuse, but Izaki had insisted so much that he had no choice but to accept. He had a pretty nice car for an associate professor. This was the cause of a lot of speculation around the college. Some people said his family was rich, and others that he had the wife of some CEO as a patron. He'd once quietly told me the truth, that he was single and spent all his money on his car. But who even knew if that was true? Izaki was acting like he was a professional chauffeur, opening the rear door and escorting Dr. Leskinen and Maho. Dr. Leskinen thanked him and got inside. Maho went around to the back to load up her luggage. Not bad, Okabe. Looks like you've won over Dr. Leskinen. He grinned and poked me with his elbow. You'd better not lose this connection, you know, for your future's sake. Right. He was a hard guy to hate, but for an associate professor he seemed kind of shallow. It was one of the unfortunate things about him. He waved to me and opened the driver's side door. What was that sound? About the same time I heard the strange sound. A hole appeared in the window in the front passenger side. Yeah! Izaki screamed and fell back on his butt. The rear window exploded. What the heck is going on? I panicked. Was this some kind of supernatural phenomenon? I was too confused to move. And then in the corner of my vision, I saw someone. A man I didn't know appeared out of the shadow of one of the pillars. He was holding something strange in his hand. It looked kind of like a handgun. It was tiny, with a short barrel and kind of flat. I couldn't see any kind of silencer. Who is that? I remembered him from somewhere. Felt like we'd met before. Where? I thought, but nothing came to me immediately. The man was standing there, mumbling something to himself. Woe to the world because of the things that cause people to stumble. Such things must come, but woe to the person through whom they come. If your hand or your foot causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life maimed or crippled than to have 2 hands or 2 feet and be thrown into eternal fire. And if your eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life with 1 eye than to have 2 eyes and be thrown into the valley of Hinnom. There was an aura of intensity and madness about the man as he pointed his gun at us again. The souls God granted dwell within us, the children of God. They will never dwell within Silicon. Va! Zaki stood up, turned around, and fled in terror like a startled rabbit. That sound again! It was so soft and light. I couldn't even imagine there was a gunshot. But this time the car's windows didn't break. And it didn't blow a hole in me either. It missed? Was he too focused on Izaki? Won't be that lucky again. Move! I pushed Maho into the back seat and crawled into the driver's side. Thankfully, the engine was still running. I slammed down on the pedal without even bothering to shut the door. The sound of a powerful engine shook the underground air. The attacker flinched at the incredible noise and vibration. But the car didn't move forward. It didn't move an inch. Shift!
You need to put it in drive!
Dr. Leskin and Maho were keeping their heads low in the back seat and shouting loud enough to be heard over the engine. I took my foot off the accelerator. I glanced over at the gear shift. It was stuck next to the N. What am I supposed to do?
You have a license?
No!
What?
And then, through the windshield, I saw the attacker ready his gun again. He was aiming at me. The look in his eyes told me he was ready to kill without hesitation. A soul will not dwell within silicon. Crap! Cracks like a spiderweb appeared on the windshield. Something went past the side of my head. I felt a sharp pain. And at the same time, a ringing in my ears. And all the other sounds faded away and started to disappear. I felt myself passing out. Then Maho jumped over the seat and slid into the passenger side.
Close the door now!
My mind was pulled back to reality. I slammed the door shut just as she told me. Maho shifted from neutral to drive and leaned over on top of me to grab the wheel.
Floor it!
I slammed the accelerator so hard that for a moment the wheels were almost spinning in place, and the car leapt forward. The attacker was getting closer. We were going to hit him! I was about to take my foot off the accelerator when...
Leave it!
Maho shouted. I gritted my teeth and did as she said. There was no impact. Evidently, the attacker had leapt away at the last second to avoid being crushed. There was no time to confirm it as the car raced through the parking garage. We were going too fast, and since Maho was controlling the car from the passenger seat, she couldn't keep it going in a straight line. The car spun to the left and right. I was almost flung out the broken window. I grabbed onto the edge of the seat as hard as I could. We headed for the exit, slamming into walls and pillars as we went. Who is that guy?
No idea!
Right! Go right! I could see an exit sign right in front of us.
I can't turn fast enough!
I pressed the brake and put my hand on top of Maho's, turning the wheel to the right. That was the wrong thing to do. Rear tires slipped. Car spun in a circle. And then it came to a stop. Are you okay?
Yeah, what about the professor?
I looked back and saw Dr. Leskinen lying face up on the seat, giving me a thumbs up sign.
Let me take over.
Right! I quickly put my hand on the door and get ready to get out of the driver's seat. Then I saw an old creaky sedan rumbling towards us and shivered. It was the man from a moment ago. He was following us and moving really fast.
Get out, he's going to...
No, get out! He's going to ram us!
This door, it won't open!
Had it broken when we slammed into the wall? I grabbed Maho out of the passenger seat and rolled outside. Dr. Leskinen rolled out of the rear door. It was less than a second afterward that the sedan hit. If we'd been even just a little too slow, we would have been turned into mincemeat. I stood up and offered Maho a hand, then moved away from the unrecognizable wreck that used to be a car. You okay?
Thanks.
Both cars were smashed together. The attacker's sedan was completely embedded in the rear half of the car we'd been driving. There was no way he could have survived. There were no tire marks on the ground, which meant he'd slammed into us without braking. I shivered. I had almost been killed. Anyway, I need to contact the cops. I was about to pull out my smartphone when the security guards heard the commotion and came running. Excuse me, please call the police! The security guard nodded and contacted the police. Ugh. Ow, it hurts. I could feel a pulsing ache on the side of my head. Shot from the gun had grazed me. I hadn't felt that pain at all while I was driving. I fearfully reached up to touch it and felt blood flowing from my temple down my face. I gulped when I saw that my fingertips had turned bright red. I almost saw my Yuri when she was shot in the head. I almost saw Kurisu when I'd killed her. The images felt like they were about to come flashing back to me, and I struggled to stay standing.
Covered in blood! Did you get hit?
Maho went pale. Is this a bad place to get hit?
There's something called superficial temporal artery there.
Let me see it. I'm going to touch you a little. Dr. Leskinen looked at the wound. When he touched me, I felt more pain, but I gritted my teeth to endure it. It's okay. You're not that badly hurt.
I'm glad.
Use this. Thanks. I put the handkerchief he offered me up to my temple.
The guy who attacked us. He was the one at the seminar.
Really?
You don't remember? That was the guy you yelled at.
Oh. That's right. It sounded like he was insulting Kurisu, so I shouted objection at him. That was the guy. Was this his way of getting back at me? Not a chance. Souls God granted dwell within us, the children of God. They will never dwell within Silicon.
Huh? What's that?
He was saying that before he fired the gun.
Was he talking about Amadeus?
I don't know. I could faintly hear police car sirens in the distance. The hotel security guards and staff were starting to gather. Hey, how do we explain this?
You tell him exactly what happened. I mean, we don't exactly know either.
And then Maho's eyes went wide. She, Dr. Leskinen, and the crowd were all staring at a single point. I looked too, and almost screamed. Woe to the world! Such things must come. Woe to the person through whom they come. The man crawled out from the wreckage of the sedan, covered in blood. Then he staggered to his feet. He looked like a zombie. All his limbs except the one holding the gun were pointed off in impossible directions. I could see what looked like bones sticking out from them. His stomach was torn open, and each time he crawled forward, I could see major organs covered in blood falling out of the hole. But he moved towards us as if he felt no pain at all. It was such an awful sight that no one could speak. The man unsteadily aimed the gun towards Dr. Leskinen. He must have been on the verge of death because his arm was flailing around too much to aim. Dr. Leskinen's expression was pure terror, and he seemed unable to move. Blasphemy. Soul. Whoa. Professor, run! A shot rang out. Fresh blood flew out of the man's head, and his body was blown away as if it had been hit by a truck. He fell to the ground, still clutching his gun. He tried to crawl forward anyway, but soon twitched and stopped moving. The crowd began to scream. What? The attacker had been shot? Did he shoot himself? Well, the gunshot was clearly different from the last ones. Who's there? Who just fired? I looked around. I could see several policemen coming from the entrance, but none of them had their guns drawn. The crowd was nothing but security and hotel staff. I couldn't see any of them carrying a gun. So who had fired? Where had they fired from? The way they took the attacker's head off with a single shot. Not just anyone could do that. What is going on? Of course, no one told me. And I think that is a pretty good place to cut it. My God, things just go from 0 to 100 real fast. And then, you know, sometimes they just hang around at 100 for a while because, my God, the stakes in this one are nuts. But I'm loving this, and I hope you are too. So for now, thank you all so much for following my playthrough of Steins Gate 0, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye now!